Today on Midwest Microbrew, I interview Trevor Rose-Hamblin, the co-founder and head brewer of Old Irving Brewery in Chicago, Illinois. Trevor started out in the culinary world, but his love for great food and great beer led him to co-found the great brewery. Hi, Trevor. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Ah, Well, before we get into the story of Old Irving, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you. Can you tell me about your background and how you got into brewing?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Michigan, so kind of grew up with a love of craft beer, especially in the early days of, Oberon and Two Hearted and Dragon's Milk and all that good stuff. So I kind of grew up drinking that kind of stuff. And I was pursuing a culinary career. So I did move out to Chicago back in 2008 to attend Kendall College School of Culinary Arts. Um, did that, worked for some really great restaurants, but still had this like love for beer and brewing. So I started brewing a lot kind of on my own. And then eventually, but that thirst for, more beer knowledge led me to walking in the back doors of a lot of different places, places like Pipeworks and, there's quite a few others. Dry Hop was nice enough to do collaborations with me early on through the restaurant I was working at the time. Um, and then a big one was Flossmoor Station, who let me apprentice with Bjorn Johnson, who's now lead brewer over at Goose Island. And was getting all these little experiences because I had pretty much spent all my money on culinary school, and that was expensive. And then, you don't make a ton of money in that realm, so there wasn't much left, much debt left I could go into. And then eventually, the business owner from the restaurant I was working with called Moto and our sister restaurant Ing asked me what I wanted to do because I'd kind of worked up from, cooking on the lines there. I did do my internship for culinary school there, and worked my way up from the line all the way up to front of house and eventually was managing both of his restaurants. And at the time, there wasn't a ton of brew pubs in the city. There was maybe just a couple. You had like Rev and you had Goose Island and you know Peace, but that was about it. And there were some more like macro kind of brew pubs, but I was like, we need something that has more focus on the food. And he agreed, and that's kind of how the journey started with OIB. Eventually, we met the right guy that lived right across the street from him, who was interested in opening a brewery himself, and kind of the rest is history. And when we first opened up, we wanted to make sure that there is a focus and an emphasis on quality everything, whether it was service, food, beer. We just wanted to be kind of a cut above all throughout. And given that I'd worked for these restaurants that were fine dining and Michelin star stuff like that, I think it kind of gave us a leg up when we opened up the brew pub concept. So yeah,
Gotcha.
that's how it got started.
Wow. All right. Well, that's fascinating to hear how you kind of forged your way into brewing after kind of switching careers like that. How would you describe your brewery in one sentence to someone who's never been there before?
I don't know if I could do it in one sentence,
Yeah,
but
you could take a few.
it's a conveniently located brew pub right off of the Blue Line. Um, a lot of like wooden tones throughout. It's very warm feeling in here. And then wood fired eats. We have a wood fired grill for all of our food. We've got a full bar, so we also kind of take a lot of the creativity that we get to explore in the kitchen and in the brewery, and also bring that to our cocktail program. And yeah, we just are, that neighborhood spot that you want to come back to time and time again, and know that it'll be quality every time you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of people coming back, I mean, you guys have been in business since 2014, I believe.
16 with,
2016.
yeah, yeah. So
Gotcha.
we'll be
So,
celebrating our 10-year anniversary in 2026.
wow. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Uh,
That's crazy. I can't believe it. It feels like it's bigger than that and so much less time as well.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. It flies. That's for sure.
yeah.
So during that time, I'm sure you've built up, some regulars. Do you get a lot of regulars coming in, and what do you think draws them in consistently?
A ton. I think it's probably a lot of it has to do with our team here. I mean, everyone is so warm and welcoming, and I do feel like we make a stronger bond than just like a guest relationship, where we really get to know these people. And when you're around for 10 years, you get so connected that they're almost a part of your daily life, some of these guests.
Hmm.
And so unfortunately we've had some really beautiful things like weddings that have happened that we've been invited to, or and unfortunately some funerals, and things like that. You just get so ingrained in the community that you are truly a part of it. So I think that's probably a big piece of it. We also have a burger of the week, the wing of the week that we keep around consistently, and yeah,
Yeah. Well, sounds like you built up
you keep
quite a
coming
community
back.
there, which is pretty cool for a giant city like Chicago. So,
I always call it the big little town.
yeah.
So it's everyone kind of knows everyone, and especially in restaurants, it gets even smaller. So, but yeah, no, we definitely are. I love our regular people, and it's cool when people become regulars or you see them more regularly because they kind of get the vibe, they understand kind of the warmth here, and then you start seeing them more. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. So keeping with the family and community kind of questions, is your space pretty family friendly, or do you have different accommodations
Yeah.
for age groups?
Nope, we are family friendly through and through. We don't have any kind of rules about the time your kiddos got to be out of here. We open up at noon every day and we close at different times, whether it's a weekday or a weekend. But no, we are a family friendly place.
Gotcha.
It's a restaurant. I get it for tap rooms and stuff like that for if someone wants to keep more of an adult kind of vibe in there. But no, we've got kid seats, and honestly, we do have we kind of have a natural separation, if you will. Like what I'm sitting in right here is our beer hall, and this is kind of more of our dining room area with
Hmm.
like lots of seats. And usually families will end up here, and then right on the other side of this wall here, we do have kind of what is more like a bar vibe, um, tap room feel, where usually the adults will end up, and you have a bar. Like if you want to maintain a kind of more of an adult feeling, I mean, kids aren't allowed at the bar here in
Yeah.
Illinois, so you can kind of see here. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
TV, music's a little bit louder. It's just more of a bar vibe in general.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, cool. Didn't know that was back there. That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have any like events that you participate in as a brewery?
Oh my God, so many.
I
Well,
did
we
notice I
have,
was looking through your website and I saw there was a bunch of awards and events and stuff, so thought that would be a
yeah.
good one to answer.
So, you know, we participate in a lot of stuff within the city. So we started distribution probably in 2018 is when we kind of started to hit it with really, starting to gallop in 2020 with distribution, sort of out of necessity because of the pandemic and everything. But um, we a big one that happened in 19 was that Beezer, our hazy IPA, hit for gold at the Great American Beer Festival in Denver. We were still a really young brewery, and it was very unexpected. And I think I had like 15 barrels and a fermenter of Beezer when it hit, and it went quickly, and things moved fast, and we had to grow, and we were doing some contract brewing, but eventually we did decide to open up a second spot to keep up with the brewing. So we do distribute a bit of beer here in the Chicagoland area, and with most of our focus being there, with some in Southern Illinois and some in Wisconsin. But locally, we do a ton of beer events, not just with local neighborhoods, but also with different accounts. Whether it's a beer shop or maybe a larger purveyor. And then we love competing. I know our chef here, Alex, he really loves to compete as well. So we get him wrapped up in some food competitions that are usually focusing around beer. And I like to participate in like the really big competitions, World Beer Cup, FOBAB, and GABF are like the big three for me.
Hmm.
So we definitely do those every year as well, because we've seen the value in when you can win a medal, especially for a popular style like hazy IPA or IPA. So yeah,
Oh yeah. That's significant for sure. I saw the awards listed on the site too, so
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
And keeping with the neighborhood vibe too, with like there's a lot of local, block parties are huge here in Chicago in the summer.
Mhm.
and we donate a lot of beer. It's always almost like no questions asked donations to neighborhood parties. Like we want to be your beer. We want to be there for your celebration even if we're not going to be there physically, which a lot of times we are. So we donate a lot of beer there. A lot of events. We're right by St. Edward's Church, which is a very large Catholic church and school. And they do a lot of fundraising and good work. So we also will donate some beer there as well.
Nice. Huh.
Yep.
Sounds like you guys are a good part of the community.
We
What?
try to be as best we can.
Yeah. What's your policy on like large groups or private events, special occasions? Do you guys do stuff like that?
We do now. Yeah, we used to have an area called the game room that kind of became storage for the brewery because we were growing and expanding, and we didn't use it for a long time. But more recently, we do have an event space in the back that butts right up to the brewery. So it feels like you're standing in the brewery and can seat up to about 50 people. And Joshua Blevins, our general manager, he's in charge of booking all those parties, and we don't have like a very set like we have packages, but we're very flexible too. We try to work with everyone on an individual basis. So people come to us with all different kinds of budgets, and we try not to pigeonhole people too hard. And
Mhm.
if we can make it work, we'll make it work. At the end of the day, we'll get creative if we have to. So yeah, we definitely do private events, and we will. If it's a big enough event and they call ahead of time, we will be able to reserve maybe some tables. But for the most part, we're no reservations, walk in only. But you'd be surprised, even with that, we get 20 people that'll walk in. It's
Yeah.
wild. They'll just walk in as a group and be like, "Hey, we want to sit down." And you're just like, okay, I can't get five friends together, for a night out, but you guys have somehow mustered 20 people to get here all at the same time with zero heads up.
Incredible.
But we'll happily accommodate. We'll make it work. So we've done that more than a few times. So
Nice.
yeah,
So getting into the beer and brewing question. So you're the head brewer there, I believe, right?
yeah. Though the more you carry on in this industry, it's just like anything else. You become a head chef, the less you actually cook. Kind of the same thing in brewing, where I've got brewers now who are all very talented. I write the recipes and make sure that things are moving along, but I've got hands now that help me brew the product. So
Well, that helps when you got a big operation going on. Um,
yeah, kind of need it.
yeah, so walk me through your core lineup. What kind of styles do you have
Sure.
available all the time, and why are they always available?
Yeah, so available all the time. We have first and foremost Della, our Kolsch style ale. That was brewed in the beginning. I don't know if there was much decision around anything other than I just really enjoyed a Kolsch beer, and I knew there wasn't a lot of them on the market when we first opened. And I was really excited after I brewed my first one, home brewing, and I really wanted to grow that style and do some education with the general public. I think these days most people know what a Kolsch is, but for a long time there was kind of this mysterious little beer. Um, so we started with that one. It was the very first brew on both my systems, by the way. So I did the first beer here at the pub and first beer at what we call Walnut, which is our production facility. Light, crisp, easy drinking, Pilsner base, and then some noble hops on the back end. This is like your everyday drinker. We wanted to kind of like tip the hat to some of the history in Old Irving Park. It was actually named after the founder of Old Irving Park's first daughter. Her name was Della. I thought it was a really beautiful name. And so we decided to kind of wrap up, because we wanted it to be that neighborhood beer. And it has become that beer where you have a lot of our regulars who will come in, belly up, and drink it because it's low ABV, it's light and crispy. It's kind of a working person's beer. So that's Della. And that won silver at JBF in 2021, which so happy about. So I love that beer. Then we have Sentinel, which was kind of our original flagship beer. At least it was supposed to be until we discovered hazy IPAs. And that one was like more of a classic Midwest style IPA, a little bit like maltier, and but still with enough IBUs to keep it in the IPA category with Centennial, and then being backed up with Mosaic and Citra on the aroma side. Sentinel named such because I kind of called it the protector of our brewery, like the guards would have done in Rome. So we wanted to make sure that we had something that could like really sell out of beer and kind of turn heads. But that brings me to our actual flagship now, which is Beezer. It actually started off as trendy with an I, because I didn't really want to make a hazy because I was kind of a little bit up my own butt before I even knew what I was doing, about styles and stuff.
Mhm.
But we actually had a bit. One of our investors like really loved hazy IPAs, and he shared some with me, and I kind of got an affinity. I knew which direction I wanted to go, so I started like really studying them. It took me about 2 years of tinkering before we got to actually naming it Beezer. And it's an old timey term for the nose. I thought that was cool since you use so much aroma hops.
Mhm.
Also, it's a term that you never hear, so you'll remember it,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's 6.9%, like 40% wheat, like really lovely, like kind of velvety mouthfeel with big hop aromas. But that's really the beer that put us on the map. And then a more recent addition to our full-time lineup is Doji. It's our West Coast Pilsner. Think of everything that you love about a classic Pilsner, but just amped up with American hops. We have Citra and Amarillo, so you get like some grapefruit vibes from the Amarillo with all that supporting structure and citrus quality from the Citra with just enough bitterness to keep it crisp and wanting another sip. And we kept it at 5.5% just to make it super, super approachable.
Yeah.
And then we have, our seasonals and stuff like that. All of them are super cool. We do a lager release. We do about five of them every year, and they represent different seasons. Right now, we just released Ursa Major, our Baltic Porter. Coming up in the spring, we'll have Goat Destroyer, our Maibach, and then we'll have Sona, our Helles, Till Death, our Pilsner, Oktoberfest, and then Life's Blood, our dark Bock lager that we do around Halloween. A little
Cool.
bit spookier, spooky lager.
Yeah.
And then we do a sour series called Cushy with different fruits for different seasons. Again, some of that kind of, chef-like mentality and thinking about what will pair best with the times because we do have seasons here in Chicago. It's nice to have beers that kind of vibe with that, and it does drive sales big time. You can't drink a pumpkin beer in January, or people
All right.
don't. So you got to make sure you're kind of minding those seasons. And then outside of that, we've got one-offs like big hazy IPAs, or doubles, or Galactic Thoughts, triple Beezers, double Beezers, all that fun stuff. And then two seasonals outside of that. One is called Cinnamon Prost, which is a white stout. It's about 7%, done with Saigon cinnamon and vanilla, and it kind of tastes like cinnamon toast crunch a little bit. It's
Hmm.
supposed to taste like horchata, but we make that every year and it sells out. People love it. We do variants on that. And then the big one is Krampus cookies. It's our barrel aged stout that we release every year. Kind of, Santa's supposed to get milk and cookies. Krampus gets milk and cookies in the shape of 15% beer that's been aged in bourbon barrels. And then we do, variants on that we release every year. We actually kind of just got done with our Krampus season. We just had our last like big event last weekend with a Krampus market where we actually have one of our bartenders who sets up all these vendors, kind of makes like a anti Chris Kindle market with spooky stuff and cool vendors selling all kinds of different stuff. So yeah.
Oh yeah. It sounds like you guys really get into the seasonal aspect of it, and people love that stuff. So that's great.
Yeah, you have to. It's those activations are important, and it's awesome. You want to talk about developing community, be there for all the special events.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So out of all those beers, what would you say is the most popular?
Beezer
Beezer? Yeah.
for sure. In terms of sales, yeah, Beezer. People drink more of that, and we sell more of that. Here at the pub, though, we sell a good amount of Della.
Mhm.
Glass by glass. It's just it's one of those good kind of pairs with a lot of different things and a little bit lower in ABV, so you can have multiple of them if you're hanging out for a while.
Yeah.
Then in terms of like what people get most excited about, I would definitely say Krampus, just because it only comes around once a year, and we pre-sell it all online, and there's just a lot of buzz around it. So
Yeah.
say
Plus with you said that was 15.5% or
15%, yeah,
15%? Yeah, that's that's pretty cool.
good one.
Um, what's the most experimental beer that you've created?
Whoa. Um, I've had quite a few experimental beers. I don't do anything wacky these days with like yeast or bacteria or things like that. I try to kind of stay away from that.
Hmm.
But I would say probably in terms of experimentation, like the Krampus series is probably most. I'm in an interview. Sorry, it's
Oh, no problem, no problem.
loud by me. Um, so the Krampus every year, we're always fiddling around with like different barrels and different ingredients that we can introduce to kind of create a certain vibe. So I would say definitely the Krampus series in general um, has been a lot of fun to mess with. Recently, we did do a stout with Revolution Brewing, where we introduced some French oak, which I'm pretty excited about. And this comes in the way of these staves that we're able to get from a company called Creative Oak out in California. And it just adds this extra interest. It's toasted in different ways to give you different flavors like marshmallow or, creme brulee or things like that. And I'm really excited because we did different ones in each barrel. So each
Hmm.
barrel is going to be unique in its own way, and one of them is even called Double Trancé, where we took this oak from a forest in France that is literally grown to make the barrels for all of the best wines in France for all your Grand Cru wine. And it was cool to be able to get some oak from that forest, especially given the history with restaurants and wine. I was really excited to be able to use that in beer.
Hmm.
So I'm excited to see what that brings to the table on top of the beautiful bourbon barrels that the beer is already aging in.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
For someone new to craft beer, which would you recommend as like an introduction?
I think the Della is always a great place to start, right? You
Hmm.
can see that craft beer doesn't have to be scary or hoppy or chocolatey or foo-foo or on any of that other stuff. Start with something light. We don't have any, macro beers here for people to have. Like while we want to create a warm and good environment, we've also curated a list that'll kind of suit a lot of people's needs. So if I get, a Bud Light drinker or a Budweiser drinker or someone like that in, I start them with a Kolsch, and then we can kind of go from there. Once they trust me and they have the Kolsch, like that's nice, it's light, it's crisp, it doesn't taste too bitter. Then you can start kind of guiding them towards some other stuff. And we love to give little tasters and be like, hey, try this one. I mean, you might be surprised, where it takes you to. So
Hmm.
I feel like yeah, the light fizzy stuff is the best way to start, I think.
Yeah, ease them in. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
it depends. I mean, it's also like wine people I find, because they like the acidity and all that other stuff. I usually kind of ease them in. All my wine friends with sours kind
Hmm.
of feel like there's more of a direct line between those than anything else. So that's sometimes what I'll do for my friends who are know little about beer but have a real fascination with wine.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's a good place to start. So getting into some of the behind the scenes questions, or I guess insider questions,
Yeah.
what's something about your brewery that most visitors don't know but probably should?
Um, Something about our brewery. Chris, what do you think? What's something about our brewery that most people don't know but they should? Yeah, it's a tough question. I don't know. Got a really good cocktail program. Yeah, the cocktail program at the pub is a big one where I feel like it's almost a very community oriented, curated menu where Joshua, our GM, kind of leads the charge, but then all the employees, they come up with a cocktail as well, and
Hmm.
then they kind of just tweak them, and everyone tastes them, and it becomes a part of that. And I was going to say before he said that the culture of creativity that's been cultivated at OIB kind of like seeps out of the pores of like every piece of this. And I think it's important to remember that like not every place is like that. Like
Hmm.
there's not a lot of places that, are going to sit there and say, hey, we want your input or feedback on the beer, the cocktail. No, we want everyone involved. We want more hands on it. We want more suggestions because we know that it can always be better or different in a good way, you
Yeah.
know. And I think that more places, I think, would have a lot less turnover and a lot more success if they had that kind of culture because it's just the kind of people that attracts restaurant people. We're not, uh, we all are creative in our own individual lives in some way. And
Hmm.
then to also be able to be involved at work is really nice and rewarding. And it could be something like, making a spreadsheet, but like, we get creative even in that arena a lot because we we're still figuring things out all the time. So I think that's an important piece that
Yeah.
people should know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome that I mean, that's some you get some out of the box ideas with that kind of stuff. So that's great.
Definitely.
Um, so just looking at the Chicago industry, I know it's pretty competitive around that area. How would you
I
describe the craft beer scene around there and what makes it special?
mean, it's incredible. I think first and foremost, Chicago has great water, which I think kind of can help breed good
Yep.
beer. Obviously, right away we have one less thing to worry about on a day-to-day basis when the
Hmm.
water is good. Being in a major metropolis, obviously, you just have a lot more breweries around. And since you're so close to one another in kind of a small footprint, yeah, you can feel the competition all around you. You know, it's everywhere. But with that, you also get to know the other brewers and the other breweries really, really well.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why Alarmist won gold in 2018, the first year that the hazy IPA became a thing at the Great American Beer Festival and was noticed as a style. And then we won gold the second year. I mean, we're very close to one another. I was like best friends with, or not best friends, but very good friends with Aaron, the head brewer there, and we were sharing a lot of notes. So our beers were pretty
Hmm.
similar at the end, with some like really different, like big shining differences in the recipes because we
Hmm.
both had our individual philosophies. But I mean, we kind of got better together,
Yeah.
both of us were hesitant to make hazies, you know. So it's a lot of that. I mean, this whole thing with the oak that I'm using in the Revolution collab. I mean, Marty from there, you know, he runs, and you know, in my opinion, like the best barrel age program in America that I've seen personally, with maybe like Firestone Walker right there, in terms of the absolute quality and consistency that comes out of there. And he's willing to come down to the you know our level, which is you know we do a like I'm pretty sure that the amount of beer that we make is probably what they waste in a month. You know,
Oh
like
wow.
that's how small we are, and he's willing to come by and give me pointers and brew with me and do all these other things and share knowledge. So there's a lot of that. There's a big part of community here in Chicago, and I know a lot of people say like Midwest nice because you know they're not really nice. They're just Midwest nice, like it's
Yeah.
performative. When it's really not. We really have each other's backs here in the city, and you know when a place closes, we kind of all mourn it, and when someone succeeds, we all celebrate together.
Hmm.
So I think it's probably very unique, very different than a lot of other places in the country and abroad.
Yeah. Well, that totally brings me into my next question I was going to ask, which are there any other local breweries nearby that you'd recommend if people are doing like a tour, and
Absolutely, yeah. No, there's a good handful. I mean, obviously, Alarmist goes without saying they're right down the road here,
hmm.
not too far at all. Revolution, they're right down on Kedzie. You know, they've got that big, beautiful tap room, and they've always got like barrel age releases that they're doing Marty stuff, and it'll blow your mind. And you'll always have a great time there for sure. Maplewood down the street, they're very, very similar to us in terms of approach on the beer and styles. And kind of known for doing their big hazy. They've also got a kitchen, so you should eat here, drink there. I was kidding. Uh, and then yeah, I mean, if you're looking for Belgian stuff or you know like really beautiful like sour programs, you can go down to Off Color. You want a historical tour, you can go down to Goose Island and check out, you know, what kind of started craft beer here in the city. You know, people give them shit sometimes, but honestly, their little tap room there on Fulton is awesome. It's full of beers that the employees are making there. They're always interesting and unique. They still do their proprietors blend every year, so it's the idea of one of their employees that they're making on a huge scale. So that's always a great one to visit. Um, Dovetail for loggers here in the city. And with that Goldfinger, you travel a little bit outside of the city for it, but it's the best lager ever at Goldfinger Brewing. Uh, Beguile, you do the 1-2 punch, Dovetail and Beguile, they're right next to each other. I could probably go on for a lot longer.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I think I'll probably stop there because I don't want to bore you. Peace Brewery, if you want to do a New Haven style pizza and some like award winning beer, I mean, I could go probably for a really long time.
Yeah, a
There
lot
is
of good
no shortage.
options.
There's no shortage of breweries.
Absolutely not. Um, what kind of trends are you seeing in craft beer? And then how are you guys responding to it?
We are noticing kind of things kind of maybe dialing back on ABV quite a bit with people drinking less and maybe being more health conscious, or maybe just kind of, giving the livers a nice long break after 2020.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But we are noticing the trends, and the with the market bringing in ready to drink cocktails, THC beverages, there's just a lot more things to put in our faces these days that are not beer. For a long time, when you wanted a packaged product that was ready to drink, it was most likely going to be a beer and then an occasional Zima.
Mhm.
But these days, it's very, very different. It does make for some interesting times, no doubt, but I think a lot of us are going back to crispy, easy drinking lagers. I think you're going to see a lot of people going back to 12-ounce cans because I don't know if people always want a pint of something.
Mhm.
NA is huge. I think that it's very proven that, the non-alcoholic market is here to stay, and that people aren't just drinking them when they're just not drinking at all. They're actually drinking it in between a session. So they might drink, a regular beer and then have a non-alcoholic and then, continue on with their night.
Mhm.
So, it's tough because, beer is down in general, but I am excited by the future of beer. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to come up and change. And, but yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of things kind of going back to easy drinking, crispy stuff for a little while in smaller formats.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get into some the closing questions here. If someone came to your brewery and they could only try three things, what would you recommend? Whether it's food or beer or whatever it is.
Yeah. Um, I would say a pint of Beezer. You got to
Mhm.
have the award winner. It's won two golds, one at the World Beer Cup last year, and one at GABF. You got to have Beezer while you're here. It is the big beer that we have that put us on the map. I would say you have to try one of Joshua's cocktails. It doesn't matter his team's cocktails, just one,
Mhm.
whatever suits your fancy on that menu. There's so many different cool ones, but I guarantee you it'll be great. And then from the kitchen, I would say our octopus makes us really different than a lot of other places.
Mhm.
We braise and then wood fire this octopus with poached and then fried potatoes, and it's just a really beautiful. It's got a little cremolata on there. It's just really, really beautiful dish that I don't think you would expect out of a brew pub, and you're kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
You have octopus on a brew pub menu, like
Yeah.
it's very different. So
Yeah, that's unique
it's
for
probably
sure.
it's, that'd be my pick.
Yeah, good options. What's the best way for people to stay connected with what you're doing?
Definitely socials, Facebook, Instagram. My business partner, Jeff, he works really hard on kind of keeping everyone up to date and making sure that any new beer that comes out, anything like that is listed there. So definitely social media for sure. We put a lot of effort into it to make sure that we're always keeping people up to date. We have a burger of the week, a wing of the week. We have new beers that are coming out, seasonal cocktail lists, specials on the weekend from our chef. There's always a good reason to stop by and see what we're up to.
Cool. And then
Yeah.
any final thoughts or messages for people who are considering a visit?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty simple. If you're coming in, especially from O'Hare, we're right off the blue line. So the blue
Hmm.
line pulls right into O'Hare. So you can literally get on there, bring your roller bag. We got a place for you to keep it
Makes it
on
easy.
your way in or on your way out. If you need to, have some beers and some food before you get to the airport and you're on your way out of town, you can hit us on the way in or on the
Mhm.
way out. I would say, get to know the L if you're coming into town, because there's a lot of great breweries right off the Blue Line, for example, that you can get to fairly easily. And yeah, we open up at noon every day, so you can count on us being open at that time
Cool.
uh, every day. So yeah,
Good to hear. All right. Well, thank you so much, Trevor, for taking the time to talk with me today.
of course, it was awesome. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for today. Be sure to check out some of our other exclusive interviews with the people from the best breweries in the Midwest.